Welcome, everybody. Really pleased to have a great session and great panelists with us today to discuss the coronavirus and how it's affected our color management industry, for lack of a better term. How is it affecting our business? How is it affecting our daily work? How is it affecting it on a larger level? How do we see it affecting the retail business going forward? What's going to be the new normal, if there is a normal, new abnormal maybe? And so I have an esteemed group of people that I'll introduce to you right now. Ken Butts from Data Color. Ken, you like to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, Ken Butts from Data Color. I'm the Global Key Account Team Director, working with brand and retail apparel companies globally, primarily with the color offices where they're using digital color technology for sample measurement.
Marielle?
Hi, I'm Marielle Fietta. I oversee the color area for American Eagle Outfitters. I'm the Senior Color Manager, and I've been with the company for 12 years on Tuesday.
Congrats.
Yay.
Kim?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Shaw. I'm the color manager at Tommy Hilfiger. I've been with the company about 15 years as well. I interned there and I've been there ever since. So I've loved working with the company and being able to work with all the different teams and love working in color.
Catherine?
Hi, I am Catherine Taylor, and I'm the Enterprise Color Development Manager at L Brands Victoria's Secret. I've actually been with the company a little over 19 years in different capacities, but I've been managing this role and color at the upfront, portion of development, liaisoning with design, and then at the back end as well, connecting those dots. Probably since 2007, and I've been growing this area within the company, working with a great group of people, very smart, love it. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Dory?
Hi, I'm Dory Newman. I am AVP of Color for the Ascena Retail Group. In case you haven't heard of Ascena, it's all the Ann Taylor brands, Ann Taylor Loft, Blue and Gray. We also have Justice, Lane Bryant, Cacique, Catherine's, and all the Ann Taylor outlet brands. My role, I manage the color development, so the upfront, and also the production end for all of those brands. So it's a lot of people. I have several teams, and I've been with the company. Well, I've been with Ann Taylor. Actually, started my career there a couple years ago. Worked there for about 6 years, and then came back 6 years ago. And I started off at Ann, and then once we were acquired by Ascena, my scope expanded to all of the Ascena brands.
Well, congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
Okay, did I catch everybody? Okay, so I'm Mitch Cole. I'm with Columbia Omni. I've been there for about a little over a year. I was with Pantone for 15 years, and that was right after my bar mitzvah. And I've known the panelists all for 10 plus years. I think I've probably known Kim for the longest. And
I did mention that I've been at Data Color for 27 years, so actually 28 years this year, so a long time.
That was before my bar mitzvah. So really just to open things up, just to talk about, are we all working from home? And I think we are. It looks like we have homes in the backdrop. So I'm supposing that we all are working from home. I am. And I guess the question is, how's that going? Is it going well? Is it going poorly? Or what is the experience out there? Can you usually work from home? So let's go to Marielle.
So I'm going to be honest, it was quite the struggle the first 3 to 4 weeks, trying to manage the working part and manage your children at the same time, because it was all like dumped on you all together. I think now we're in a much better place after we've, kind of figured things out as we went. And right now, I'm really enjoying working from home. You have a little bit more flexibility with your time management. So that's probably helped us a lot. Sometimes, it's late and we can talk to our overseas vendors at the same time. And you can take a break at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and then continue after you put the kids to bed. So it's kind of more flexible for me, at least.
Trouble is drawing the line between work and home sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I figured that out 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Good. Good. Anybody else care to comment? Ann?
I'll comment.
Yeah.
I always thought that a colorist role would be a perfect work from home. I remember X-Rite had piloted these little light boxes that looked like an easy bake oven. So I always thought it would be like so perfect to have a closet and put your easy bake oven light box in there and just review submits all day and then go and type all your comments. Of course, it never worked out because all of our companies wanted us in the office and looking at the submits and touching them and meeting with our designers in person. But now that we're actually from home and I don't have a light box in my house right now, my Ohio teams were able to bring them home. But since, I'm in New Jersey, the office is in New York, I couldn't, throw it in my backpack. I'm reviewing everything digitally because now those teams are furloughed. It's actually working. And it surprises me that on the computer, I might have to turn my lights off and I don't have a calibrated monitor, but I can see the differences. I loop in the other teams if, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's actually really amazing and like eye-opening that this can actually work in a role that I thought I could never work from home. I'm sure we'll go into other things in the conversation, but, silver lining for me has been that I can have dinner with my family because I'm not, commuting home from New York and sitting on the bus for 2 hours. We eat at our kitchen table, which is amazing. We have a table that we use.
Catherine?
So, with our company, we have a couple of different brands. Color always seems to be the afterthought. It always is in all of the companies, and I think we can all relate to that. But the big scramble getting everyone home, pretty much no one took anything. No light boxes go anywhere. No one's really calibrated to use digital software like Datacolor, ChromaShare, except in our regional offices. They use them in Columbus. In our Columbus office, they have a workstation there. But typically, we review everything visually and in the light box. So working from home became this, okay, so where are we in the calendar? What are you doing at any given time in this juncture, and how do we shift and move around with that, getting standards or chips into everyone's hands so that they can work effectively from home, noting that your lighting's not great at home, designers, keep that in mind. But so it's been interesting, a challenge to say the least. We do have our regional partners who review color overseas, so we're thankful with that. But we do have a team who has set up a protocol for a portion of their team to review strike-offs, and I'm not quite sure what that protocol is. I have to reach out to the team member, but they're going to try and control it that way, and it might only be specific product, but quite a challenge, and scrambling to get things into people's hands and hoping that they can work effectively. And oddly enough, it seems to be okay. People are reaching out to me for help to be the digital eyes for their physical color. Like, we've got this in, but we can't really judge it. How do you see it? Maybe you can help us. And to Dory's point, monitor isn't calibrated, but you can see it relatively. You can read the numbers, see the curve, and make a decision, to an extent. So it's been interesting. I feel much more connected with everyone working from home, oddly. Maybe too many more calls, I'm not sure, but and to everyone's point, it's nice to sort of be able to get up and monitor your day and flex in and out of washing the dishes or cooking for your kid or doing some grocery shopping or walking the dogs. So it's been nice in the beginning. Not happy about this, really not. But as time went on, I told my sister the other day, I don't think I want to go back to the office. I work from home from now on, you know. But it's interesting. It's really it's a roller coaster for everyone in the company. You know, understanding how we're doing things, what we're doing, and in some instances less emotion, which is good. You know, it's sticking with the facts. So I think everyone is holding hands as best as possible in the company to do this. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Cool. Kim, you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So when I walked out of our office on March 13th, I was expecting to be going back to the office. We were going to be on a rotation schedule, and then that all changed over the weekend. So, you know, we in advance had already started getting some things setting up in anticipation of working from home, but I certainly didn't have all of the tools and everything I expected to have when I walked out of that office, and haven't been able to walk back since. But we have been lucky that our Shanghai regional color office reopened around the same time that we were closing. So what we've done is we've delegated all non-physical work to our other teams, so that anything that we need eyes on and anything that we need digital readings from, which is pretty much everything, they've been managing for us. So they'll send us their opinion along with the digital readings for everything, because usually our design teams will look at you know, prints and patterns, and so we have everything going through that team right now. Starting in April 15th, we're at a very skeleton crew. So we actually only have 2 designers currently working in our team right now. Everyone else is on furlough. So it has been easy in a way to have just a few people to run decisions through. So we kind of have, you know, a few key decision makers. If we have to have something sent to somebody's home, we have, but really we've been relying on our team in Shanghai to look at us, give us physical opinions, and make the best decisions we possibly can. It's definitely been a transition. We have a lot of mills that have been trying to force us to make decisions off of pictures, and so that we have not felt comfortable with. So getting everybody to send and working that way has been a challenge, but as everyone else was saying, you get used to it after a few weeks and it becomes the new norm, and you kind of get everybody understanding how we've got to work. We've put together new operating procedures and just, you know, been trying to hold people's hands as best as possible. We've been having a lot of video calls, touch bases, if anyone has any questions or concerns, just to keep up. So that's how we've currently been operating.
Cool. Interesting. Ken, maybe not so much your job, because that's maybe similar, but your clients will probably ask you a lot of questions about how to handle things differently.
Well, and another thing with us is that, sorry, I was just going to say, okay. I've also, because we're so skeleton crew, I've been picking up additional jobs in addition to color right now. So I'm also helping with fabric. We're kind of an all hands on deck atmosphere, where it's kind of, we're working to figure out what we can do to support each other with very lean teams as we go through this. So it's been, you know, an interesting transition of just trying to, you know, we might not have the answer, but we have to figure out how to find it. So that's been the other way we've been operating.
Ken, you want to chime in?
Sure. I think everyone on this call anyway is familiar with digital color technology and is using it in some way. I think that's true for most of the larger retail apparel companies, brand companies. And it's interesting that a lot of people have been, as several have mentioned, trying to utilize technology from home and finding it's successful. It's interesting the number of customers we've had ask us for a demo license, for example, so that they could at least keep their job going. And I think it's an interesting opportunity to show those within organizations who perhaps aren't as interested in using color measurement, that it can work. You know, if you can show that you can continue to make decisions based upon digital data. Now, granted, everyone wants to see the final physical sample, but this is a great chance to show how we can eliminate some of those early submissions that never needed to be submitted anyway. I think it's interesting. A couple have commented that you could still make relative decisions on a monitor. Maybe you're using a laptop monitor. I think that's something that's pretty amazing. And I'm hopeful that there will be some efficiencies that are gained within all these companies that are using color measurement, that they can say, hey, let's get rid of some of these preliminary rounds that we should never look at. Why waste someone's time when we've shown that we can look at it digitally and get this whole process moving a little faster?
It's interesting. It's like, it seems like what the industry has been preaching really for the last 10 years, probably 20 years, is even more relevant today, right? Because we've all been talking about, hey, stop looking at early submits if they're over a point, whatever, don't bother me. So it's almost like the color management things that we've learned are maybe coming to roost a little bit more, but also becoming a little bit more prevalent and a little bit more relevant. And maybe those are some of the things that that stay with us after this whole debacle. Catherine.
This is going to tie back to data color and to Ken's statement about using, and everyone's about using digital tools for lab dip approvals, you know, approvals downstream. Let's talk about that. Let's roll it back to the upfront, that those little devices that are handheld, they're digital, the one that data color has, which I haven't really pulled out of the box. I feel like that today, like in this day, and it's not a plug for data color, sorry, Ken, but just in general, given where we all are, there is opportunity go forward, mainly for design up front, to become a little bit more tuned in with like the digital aspect of color while they're home and they can't have the physical standard. That device that y'all showed, the handheld colorimeter, it's not a spectrophotometer. It doesn't use spectral data, but it can help them too. And my kind of thinking and hope is go forward that device and or Nix Pro start to, you know, gain a little more traction to support and help designers with color, you know, and help them connect a little bit with the fact that, well, I can't get the standard in my hand, or I can't really make a decision, but oh, I have this little device, I can read it and I can sort of make a decision if I like it or not, or if I can let go of the fact that I need to see it in real life and make that decision. I hope some of that technology that y'all did and Nix Pro did, and there's a couple of other ones out there, ColorX, start to really, you know, rethink it, and hopefully that has some traction in our industry more so than what it is now. Even though it's not perfect, it's something. It's a little more digital. I'm a big proponent and a believer in that, you know. While it's not perfect, it can help pinch hit and also take everyone when they work from home, give them more flexibility, especially if you have huge libraries, and you know, give them back a little bit more control that they want with, you know.
Well, I think what you're seeing is actually Pantone, CSI, Coloro, Archroma, even YKK, A&E, all these companies that offer libraries of colors have devices of some type from someone. And I think it's not that the devices aren't available, it's that people who are making those visual selections have to try. And this is a perfect situation to say, hey, you're at home. As you're looking around your house and you're inspired by some color in your own home, you can make a measurement of that, and the system will tell you what are the closest Pantone colors to that, or what are the closest Coloro colors. And then you could even go ahead and begin some lab dipping type process with that. There's just this disconnect between the value of digital data and what I'm accustomed to doing aesthetically. And it doesn't mean that you're going to eliminate looking at color libraries and pulling out your Pantone books, But this can supplement that, and especially
Yeah.
in situations like now, it can help you keep the process moving forward.
Exactly. Well put. You put it better than me, but that's my like hope and wish for our industry to, and for color. It'll help us move color and the aspect of color in our businesses just a little bit more forward, make it a little bit more modern, a little bit more flexible and on the go. I know we're rethinking all of that again during this time, and I'm encouraged that maybe we will proceed forward with devices like that, but agreed.
So one of my questions was going to be, how do you, because this panel is mostly made of larger companies, how do we get that digital management to the smaller and to the medium-sized companies that are not familiar with this? And maybe can you answered it, with some less expensive instruments, Catherine. Also, so I'm gonna leave that question aside. What do you think are some of the most difficult things of your normal color flow or work process that you cannot achieve right now or having difficulty achieving now? Mariel?
I think getting your design team, because in the office you can just walk over to them, make a decision, and be done. Here, you don't know what all the meetings they're having, so it's taking a little bit more time. Not that it's not being achieved, it's just taking a little bit longer to get the results. You have to set up a WebEx. There has to be 15 people on the call because now nobody wants to make a decision themselves. So all of that kind of creates it and makes it a little bit more difficult to get those decisions that might have been just a 2-sentence conversation before. Now there has to be a little bit more involvement, right? Because everybody needs to make sure that whatever is being approved, everybody agrees on. And everybody's in a different place. So that's what I see from us.
Yeah, makes sense. Dory?
I'm actually having the opposite experience. Sorry, Mariel. Because most of the teams are on furlough. The people that are in role, who are responsible for the department or making the decisions, are actually making the decisions. A lot of them are just taking my advice and saying okay, yes or no. Actually, across the organization, I think the consensus has been that a lot of decisions are being made a lot faster. People are just taking ownership and going with it, just because I'm guessing it's just because of the situation. But I'm actually not finding the challenges. I actually think this is a lot easier, to be honest.
Well, that's great. And I'm not saying that I know that's great for you, but I think the teams on my area, we kind of had a little problem before this all happened, so that might also be part of it.
I know that we have been finding, and not just in color, but in different areas of the business, the ability to make better decisions, quicker decisions without spin, because the key people are coming to the teams meetings and they're involved, and those decisions are being made with a little less emotion at times, depending. Just because of the nature of what everyone's going through, they need to make the decisions. There's no time to spin or to do another meeting, right? So I see that there have been definite wins within our organization on this work from home. They're definitely making sure that the key decision makers are involved in these meetings, and so that's a win. It's not perfect, nothing is, but there have been some wins and some opportunities as well. But
yeah, I've kind of had a mix of the two. It is easier now having just a few key players, but in the same sense, we were used to, if a mixed media, or if there, mainly it's the elevated issues of a bulk that is far off standard and making sure all the components match up. We're used to being able to come together with the merch team and the design team and the light box, look at it, make a business decision of how we're going to be able to move forward. And it's more difficult now to be able to get those people together and, use just pictures and our overseas team's responses to make that decision. So that physical part that we're used to kind of being able to come together has been a challenge, but it's the same thing with just a few key people now that we do make decisions much quicker. We don't have to wait to get this right person in. There's only one person there, so we go forward.
Interesting. Ken, care to comment on that, or?
A totally different workflow for me, right? The biggest challenge for me is being able to get in touch with our customers who in many cases are furloughed or when they're working from home, relying on email. It's very difficult to get in touch with people to know how we can help. And so for me, the biggest struggle with working from home is I'm accustomed to being on the phone regularly with customers or being traveling. So it can be an adjustment to be sitting here waiting for something to happen.
Right. So I'm pleasantly surprised, but what I think I'm hearing is that things are going a little bit more smoothly than I thought you guys would report. So and so my next question, which I was really curious about, and I think it might be a moot question, is that is color suffering from this? Is color quality suffering from this? And what I'm hearing basically is an overwhelming no, it's not suffering. But if you think it yes, just give me a sign and let's talk about it. Okay.
Well, what I have to say is we're certainly not on a current workflow. We are doing a lot less. We're down staff, we're down. So right now, we're just dealing with really key decisions and we're getting those pushed through quickly, but we're certainly not on the current amount of work that we would normally be doing at this time. So I don't know if that's the same for you, but it's a little simpler, but we don't have nearly as much on our plate. So if we had a lot more on our plate that we normally would at this time, I don't think we'd be able to function the way that we are with our small teams.
Yeah, makes sense. Dory?
Yeah, I would agree with Kim on that. My entire team was furloughed. So that's, 8 brands of colorists that's now just me. So, I can, review submits and look at bulk, but we haven't really begun a new season yet of development. So, I'm hopeful that things are going to run as smoothly as they have, but, who knows how the rest of the team is working, up, in the initial phases. But, I think time will tell. But, on the other hand, it might just be that we don't have time to make the decisions because we are moving closer to the in-store date than we had in previous seasons. And so that things might actually be really smooth because we just need to get things approved and get them pushed through. But we, things aren't a regular season right now.
So yeah, Dory, just a question then. You mentioned that you're sort of in the middle of a season and you haven't started a new season. Wouldn't you expect that starting a new season is going to be a significantly different challenge than just trying to keep things moving forward with work already in progress? Because now you are relying upon the entry point to that funnel for all these colors and styles that generally have been selected by groups of people in an office. Am I right on that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It was, color by committee before. Luckily, right before we closed down the office in New York and Ohio, we had started the color development phase at the very, very beginning of the next season. Those were all landed. So we're actually sort of like ahead of the curve when we do start to do development for that season. That was obviously, 100 years ago in our world now. And obviously the customer has changed, the products that are selling have changed. So those colors might be different also. So, I'm very curious to see how it, all works. Unknown.
Yeah, so I mean, that was one of my questions, is how is seasonality going to change? And what you're talking about now is just the, the here and now and what's going to be next. I'm also wondering will there be a different philosophy about seasonality? Like, will there still be, 8 to 10 drops in a season, or will it be a little different? There seemed to be a movement towards a lot of different, changes in its seasonality rather than the old 5 seasons that we used to know. Do you perceive any changes to that?
Well,
Me?
I'll say a little bit.
Any
Good.
takers?
Good.
I definitely think we've learned there, and we have been actually working on a much narrower calendar right as we were going into this, so that's helped us some advantages. But working closer to calendar, we're working with a lot of inventory right now, and I think that's why there's been some slow on moving into new seasons, because we have a lot of inventory, because of this whole situation. And so I know with us, we really want to work on getting closer to, seasons as we work, so that we're not sitting on a bunch of things, and we're closer to the market. So, that's been a strategy with us. So, digital really comes into play with us as we're trying to work with speed with our partners. And, gone are the days with us where we have somebody send a lab dip just for the credit of sending a lab dip, because we don't have the time for that. We need somebody to send things when they're at the point that they really truly believe that they're approvable. And, with digital, we've been doing, with all of our partners, not everybody is fully set up, whether having the correct equipment or the staff. So we've been working with each of our partners to try to, see what we can do of, empower a credit depending on what people's setups are, so that we can be as efficient as possible. But, I've had several meetings with our vendors. We'll just say, oh, well, we created this lab dip, so we wanted to send it because we did the work. And we said, we don't want to see it anymore. We want you to get to something where, we can have speed, so we can get on tighter calendars and know that this color development process is not going to take as long as it used to, because everybody is empowered to get this done as accurately and as quickly as possible. So that's where we are right now.
Ariel?
I also think that this is going to improve our seasonal color palettes as well. Instead of reinventing colors each season, we're going to have to adapt and try to use as much as what we already have in our current library, instead of creating 5 new greens for the upcoming season. We were lucky enough that we finished our development for our last season right before we were sent home, and our next season development doesn't begin until June, mid-June. It was kind of pushed out because of this. And I think now the designers are going to start working with our resources that we have, instead of, I really don't like that olive because it's a little bit too blue than what we have, and go, okay, this olive will work, because we really don't have time or the resources to be developing new colors, as our suppliers are still closed. They might not have enough personnel to do all this color matching in 2 days. It might take 10 days, 5 days. So I think that for the seasonal palettes, I think that's going to see a change also, at least for us. And maybe for the better, you use what you have, you get a palette, you get a palette out quicker. And vendors might already have these colors, so they don't have to even wait to get these physical swatches in, and they can just start working from electronic files that they might have already received.
Yeah. Catherine?
We're in a slightly different position than you, Marielle. We have a robust library of about 10,000 colors that have been engineered. So we're not developing. We don't allow any development unless it's super critical. And I think right now we have one team who has been so brilliant over the past 3 years, not one color developed, not one. Another brand has had to, just because of certain changes in their color direction, they've had to develop a handful, like maybe 3 tops, for the past 2 years. But we force them down that pathway, and no longer is it forcing them. They're actually quite happy to use the library. So we don't have that. It's just them building the palette. Now, if I look at where we are in our calendars, they're both brands are really good with where they are for their seasonal palette. If we end up working from home once it crosses into summer, fall, then no one has the library at home, not a physical library. They can't. So then we would be in a big pickle at the upfront point. How do we manage that? And we haven't quite crossed that bridge yet. We like to believe that we'll be back in some sort of staggered way into the office so that they can work with the library to palette build. But yeah, so if y'all can eliminate that from your workflow, if the brand can say no more developing, then that helps y'all a great deal. At the front.
Yeah, we eliminated the custom dyeing part of it.
Good. Okay, good.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
So the
That's what I
same
mean by
with us.
development.
So we've
Yeah.
learned it's to
Dory,
not
you want
put
to say-
all our, sorry.
Sorry, Kim, please.
So we've learned to not put all our eggs in one basket. So we basically utilize all of the color companies. We work with Pantone,
Okay.
or Chroma, CSI. We work
Mhm.
with everyone. And we found through having all of those options and cross-matching against everything, we have had, I think, 5 custom developed colors in the past 4 years.
Perfect.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's smart.
we've been doing that and we've also been trying to have our company come together as one. So men's and something that we didn't used to do as much, where men's and women's and children's are all collaborating together. So they might be in certain opportunities using the same, colors, so that it just works better with our mills. We don't have to, especially with core, we do that a lot. So yeah, and using and not, working specifically with one color supplier and having those certified color standards, we've found it to be very effective, because now in this situation, all of our suppliers are still able to provide standards. So if they need to send it to someone's home or send it overseas, we have all the QTX files, everything we need. So we haven't been handicapped by that. So that's been very successful on our end.
Dory, did you want to comment or no?
No, I think I had an itch. I'm good.
Okay. Very good. So I've heard a few people mention this, and the question is really, it just could be a quick answer, is what will you keep from this? What will be the best practice that you'll keep? I remember 2008 financial crisis. Everything changed, and a lot of those changes carried through. What do you think would be the one change, or one or a couple changes, that you foresee coming out of this as a best practice or more efficient?
I know for us, it's going to be digital color approval. We were already going in that direction, but this has really been more of a push. We had done a lot of exercises, because with our teams, it's that balance of having the power to make decisions and feeling like they have that control. So we did a lot of exercises to show them, digital versus visual, on how digital actually tends to be a lot more precise than their visual approvals. So, we were already positioning ourselves there in a lot of ways, but I think this is going to push us even further in that direction.
Sure.
Yeah, I would have, sorry if you hear noises, my dogs. I would have to agree with Kim, definitely more digital approvals and reliance on it. And then, definitely the fact that all the colorists don't need to be in their office, in office, that things can be done from home. Whereas before, like I said, we always, I always thought like I always had to go to New York every day. I think there's going to be a greater understanding that not all of us need to be in the office physically every day.
I know I would agree with that, Dory. I know that our leadership has taken away discussions surrounding how do we keep this going, because it clearly is proven that it can work. And what will that scenario look like? I mean, we know that not everyone's going back to the office on a certain date, and that things will probably be staggered on some sort of rotational, time frame, with half the people back in the office or half of them working from home. And I think that's a win for everyone, because it's a discovery that, you know what, you don't have to be attached in the office all the time. You don't have to be there. It can be done virtually and from home. So I think that'll be part of it. I hope new technologies come out of this for within our company that we're able to promote, and more on that. There's a cost, implication to that too. But
yeah, I was also going to add to the technology piece. It's definitely highlighted the fact that we have lack of systems, and the fact that I don't know if the systems, sorry, Ken, if the systems are actually out there that would really serve us the best right now. Like, I would love a technology where I could receive all the submits to my cell phone, and I can look at my, lab dips as I'm watching Bravo and decide what I want to see another round on or what I want to approve. Okay. And that doesn't exist yet. The other thing that I think that this has highlighted for us is our vendors, the ones that are, good quality. We know we can depend on their readings and the colors comments that we receive. So I think, from a vendor perspective, we're going to see, the cream rise to the top, kind of, so to say, and the ones that, are better performers for us, definitely from a color perspective.
Apologies. Let me just go to.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that once this is all done, there will be questions that are in the minds of some who have been accustomed to looking at samples visually as to whether or not the process really worked. And that's always been a challenge, is to look at procedurally, how does the original inspiration make its way through this process to finally a product that's in the store, and is there any sort of agreement? And so I think one of the ways that you can support that this process of digital color is effective is by saying, let's look at the final products and compare them to the original inspiration, original standard, the engineered standard, and see how good a job we did. And then compare that to the former processes that had a lot of visual input. And I think there may be some surprised people who say, wow, this digital process, at the end of the day, where it really matters, which is the product the customer's purchasing, this digital process gave me a product that was as good color-wise as those products that were produced when we had all this visual intervention. Because I think someone mentioned that the visual intervention process is very subjective. You get 5 people and you try to decide on a committee what works, you've got 5 different opinions. And at the end of the day, the decision made from those 5 people may not be any better than the decision made by one person looking at the numbers.
Mario?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really going to push my digital agenda even further, because they're very resistant. So for the last 12 years, that's all I've worked on. We actually have made some progress in the last year and a half with it. And I think those teams that were hesitant to get on board will now see how resourceful this is, how great it is, where we don't have to have a committee to approve a lab dip. We don't have to have, 3 people's opinion all the time on what you're approving. Or I want to see this thread. I want to see this button. There's no need for it. And I think this is going to be great. At least color-wise, this is pushing us in the right direction.
Yep, interesting. Thanks, guys. So
I just have one thing to.
Sure, Kim.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I also have found that digital seems to be a good way to get the easy wins out of the way so that our company can really put focus on the challenges. So, there's always going to be things that we can't fully approve digitally, neon colors, we have outerwear with saturation issues, those type of things. And sometimes we get so bogged down with all of this work that some of these things can slip through the cracks a little easier. So we can get the easy wins all out of the way so they're working like clockwork, then we can go in and really focus on the challenges in the business and put more attention where need be, so we can get as close as possible and really work with our partners to make sure they're doing the best they can possibly do. So we found that has been really helpful for us too, even for things that digital can't do. It helps us to be able to focus where we need to.
Yeah. Catherine.
Really quickly, I'm with you, Kim. Our company could not fully go digital because of the nature of our fabrics. You have shine, you've got mesh, you have laces, and so at that back end, we are still focused on the visual. But to your point, where there are easy wins, you want to take them up digitally, and definitely at the front end to support design in some way. Yeah.
My last question is, I'm very interested to see what comes out of this in regards to sustainability. Is fast fashion, which seemed to be a lot of pressure on fast fashion before the virus happened, will that stay with us? Will we go back to more regular seasons, as we were talking about before, but will there be less of a push for fast fashion? And when I think of fast fashion, I think of a fashion that is somewhat ephemeral. It stays for a few weeks and then it goes. Will there be any pressure toward goods that last longer, that have more quality, more of a classic kind of quality that could last for a long time? I think of like companies like Patagonia that are really emphasizing goods that last for a long time, and they'll repair them if needed. Do you see any kind of changes like that happening in the retail world?
I mean, I feel like right now, immediately, there's been this halt with the fast fashion. Nothing's getting produced. And then even everyone ramping back up in the future, it might be less so. I would kind of hope it would be less fast fashion and more focus on quality and sustainability. I know within our organization, there is a huge push and discussion and forward movement with sustainable fabrics and an approach to sustainability in specific areas, which is really encouraging. But I would hope that fast fashion takes a step back or a step down, only from the perspective of saving this earth, and it I don't know. That would be my hope, or some sort of balance in between.
Yeah, I agree with that. Our company, I mean, and finding realistic ways to be sustainable. We've been working with better cotton and different things where, it's always a challenge, because to go fully organic, a lot of times the customers won't respond to the cost of that. So trying to find ways to be as sustainable as possible, and the price points that we're working with, our company has put a lot of focus on that. And I'm very proud of a lot of work that they've done in that direction.
I was just looking on the Facebook page. There were some questions here, but I'll answer them directly. But Marielle, there was a question here from Rachel Bennett asking, are you getting designers to sign off on color over a Skype call?
Well, we use WebEx, and that's how we've been doing it. But like I said before, we did 95% of our approval was done before we were sent home, where we started working from home. And what I've actually done is I had some readings of items that we might have not approved. So what I did is I matched them digitally. I sent them to our suppliers, our Chroma, whomever. I sent them the digital files, and what I did is I just sent those matches physically to our design head, taking into consideration that they don't have a light box, but I gave them my comments and they went with it. I didn't send them 15 matches for one color. I sent them what I thought were the best based on my digital review. And, and we got it done. It was only a handful of colors. Let's see what the new season brings when you have to create the entire palette this way.
Right. Okay. Good. Any comments, any questions from you guys? You're an excellent panel. I really appreciate all the answers and the thought that you've given them. So thank you very much for being a participant. I appreciate it. And to the general public listening, I hope that you got something out of this. I did, for sure. I learned more. It was very elucidating. So if there's anything that we could do for you, or if I could do for you, mcole@columbiaomni.com. We're here to help. And again, really appreciate everybody's time. And thank you so much. Okay.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks.
Thank you
Have a good
all.
day.
Thank you.
It was
It's
nice
really
seeing
lovely
everybody.
joining and coming together. I
Good
know.
to see everybody.
I know.
Nice to see
y'all.
faces.
Since we can't see each other at any
I know.
conferences.
No, but it was good seeing y'all.
Bye.
Okay, and
Be
talking.
well.
Bye.
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 Thank you, Mitch.
Bye.
Thanks
Thanks,
again,
Mitch.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.